Just a few weeks ago, South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem was widely seen as the favorite, the most likely pick for Donald Trump's VP position. But a lot has changed. After a series of missteps and terrible interviews and disgusting leaks, she is no longer the favorite in a lot of people's eyes. Now, the catalyst for this was this excerpt from her book leaking, where she talks about killing her rambunctious puppy, killing her puppy just because the dog was a little bit too rambunctious. And today, she did a new interview where she got absolutely cooked about her new book, about all of these mistakes she makes in regards to world leaders' names. I don't want to waste any time. Let's play this first clip. Make sure you comment a blue heart, leave a like, tell me what you think about these clips as I commentate over them. Let's play it.
Talk about meeting some world leaders, and one specific one. Quote, "I remember when I met with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, I'm sure he underestimated me, having no clue about my experience staring down little tyrants. I've been a children's pastor after all." Did you meet Kim Jong-un?
Well, you know, as soon as this was brought to my attention, I certainly made some changes and looked at this passage. And I've met with many, many world leaders. I've traveled around the world. As soon as it was brought to my attention, we went forward and have made some edits. So I'm glad that this book is being released in a couple of days, and that those edits will be in place, and that people will have the updated version.
So you did not meet with Kim Jong-un. That's what you're saying.
You know, I've met with many, many world leaders. I've traveled around the world. I think I've talked extensively in this book about my time serving in Congress, my time as governor, before governor, some of the travels that I've had. I'm not going to talk about my specific meetings with world leaders. I'm just not going to do that. This anecdote shouldn't have been in the book, and as soon as it was brought to my attention, I made sure that that was adjusted. So
it really feels like she's on an entire tour made just to sabotage her chances of being Trump's VP. And honestly, she makes a great MAGA politician, because every time she is asked a question in these interview clips I'm about to play, she finds a way to skirt around them. Like in this one, she's asked, "So have you met Kim Jong-un?" She says, "Well, I've met many, many world leaders." I'm surprised she didn't start saying many of them are tremendous people, some of the best people. But I'm going to play some more clips of her being ripped to shreds in this interview. Then she begins to play the victim just because she had passages of her own book read to her. But in this next clip, she is asked if she ever has been to North Korea, and it feels like she's switching North Korea and North Dakota because she does not know a single thing about foreign policy. Let's play this clip.
History has been extensive and covered decades.
Right, but
so
you never went to
North Korea. I make no
Korea.
specifics in this book. I talk about the fact that, yes, I have. I've been there. So
you went to
need
North Korea?
Yeah, I went to the DMZ, and there are details. There are details in this book that talk about going to the DMZ and specifics that I'm willing to share. There's some specifics I'm not willing to share with you. I've traveled the world and I visited with world leaders, and some of that is referenced in the book. And this anecdote is something that, when it was brought to my attention, we made some changes. And when the book's released, we'll do all that we can to see that that is reflected.
Okay. Well, I'm asking about that specifically because you made the point to bring him up twice, and that he was a little tyrant.
Do you have a question for me, Margaret?
Yes, I do. South Korea is a treaty ally. North Korea is a nuclear-armed adversary. So that's a pretty big thing to confuse.
She keeps using this phrase and repeatedly saying, "as soon as this was brought to my attention," which almost implies that she had nothing to do with the actual writing of the book, and almost implies that she didn't even proofread it. Did anybody proofread this? Because this is something that you should probably catch before you start printing copies. I'm about to play a clip of Tim Scott being incredibly insane, but first I want to play one more clip of Kristi Noem acting like the victim of this interview simply because she was hearing quotes from her own book that she most likely hasn't even read. Really quickly, if you guys have seen my debate with Mike Lindell, this is a theme in the MAGA world, is acting like the victim just because you're asked questions. It happens over and over, many such cases. Let's play this clip of Kristi Noem.
If I had an interview with Joe Biden, who I've asked for multiple times, I will definitely ask him about his record. But I'm asking you about your book here, which we have.
I'm just asking for why am I being treated differently than every other person that you've interviewed? I've looked at your last several weeks of your interviews. You You don't interrupt other people. You let them talk. Thank you for inviting me to have this conversation about this book.
Oh, I'm sorry I quoted your own words from your own book, if you even wrote these words, but moving on to Tim Scott, who gave an interview for Meet the Press today, in which he refused to say he would accept the results of the 2024 election. Again, he has this way of slipping around the questions and just not outright answering them. Yet another case of MAGA showing us they don't believe in democracy. Let's play this clip.
And just this week, he said that he won Wisconsin falsely, Senator. So again, to the point, you voted to certify the election results of 2020. It's the exact opposite of what you said and did after 2020. Why would you want to be on a ticket with someone where there's such a fundamental difference?
There is clear facts here. President Trump himself said he expects this election to be fair, he expects it to be honest, and he expects to win. That's what the presidential candidate should expect, and I expect the exact same thing, and frankly, the American people agree with him. This is an issue that is not an issue, so I'm not going to make it an issue.
Well, Senator, will you commit to accepting the election results of 2024? Bottom line.
At the end of the day, the 47th president of the United States will be President Donald Trump, and I'm excited to get back to low inflation, low unemployment.
Wait,
and high
Senator, yes or no? Yes or no? Will you accept the election results of 2024 no matter who wins?
That is my statement.
But is it just yes or no? Will you accept the election results of 2024?
I look forward to President Trump being the 47th president. Kristen, you could ask him multiple times.
Senator, just a yes or no answer.
So the American people will make the decision.
But I don't hear you committing
for President Trump. That's that clear.
I don't hear you committing to the election results.
Here's the challenge.
Will you commit to accepting the election results?
This is why so many Americans believe that NBC is an extension of the Democrat Party. At the end of the day, I've said what I've said, and I know that the American people, their voices will be heard, and I believe that President Trump will be our next president. It's that simple.
But, Senators, you know, the hallmark of our democracy is that both candidates agree to a peaceful transfer of power. So I'm asking...
What an absolute weasel. It sounds like he's saying that if Donald Trump wins, he will accept the results of the election, but if Donald Trump loses, he will refuse to accept the results. Remember, he's also basically auditioning to be Donald Trump's VP. He sees this gap that is open now that Kristi Noem has self-destructed, and he is trying to make sure he is walking carefully, treading carefully, and saying things that Donald Trump would agree with. Donald Trump would praise him for saying. But the fact that he can't even say he would accept the loss makes me believe that if they do win, he'll have trouble accepting the peaceful transfer of power in 2028. This is a very scary situation when we have leading candidates not believing in our democracy, not upholding these standards that have been the precedent for all of American history. And you may be wondering, why am I playing these clips of these absolute kooks? It's because these kooks are important people. One of these kooks is going to be the Vice President of the United States, and we better get to know them, get to know their characters, so we can launch attacks that have credibility. All in all, it has been a terrible day for Donald Trump's potential VP picks. It's been a terrible week. Everything from Kristi Noem's dog-killing story to Tim Scott's refusal to uphold democratic standards. This is what we're up against. This is what we are voting against, and we have to relentlessly spread this message. If you want to help me do that, just leave a like, comment, a blue heart, subscribe. Most importantly, have a great Sunday.